Well, I'm recording now because it's 1 o'clock Wednesday, and I've got no partners in this storytelling session at this time. So it's just you folks listening to the recording. Now I know some people are listening to the recording. So what I would like you to do the next time you listen to the recording is to jot down something on the in the comment section as to what it is about coming to the session to tell a story that you are finding it difficult to do or unappealing to do, so that maybe we could change that up. But be frank and let me know, because otherwise I'm not going to know. And if I know, maybe something could change. Or if you have my email address and you want to do it privately, you can do that. So I will tell some stories. I have some, and we'll see how it goes today. So I was thinking of my first wife, Bobby was her name. She was one of the first Baba lovers I met when I first came to Baba, and she was living a few blocks away from me with another Baba lover, and there was a neighbor that some of you might have met or know, certainly know of, Hermes Ryder and his girlfriend Anna at the time, and they were neighbors. And I consider Hermes my link to Baba for a couple of reasons that may be a different story, uh, but nevertheless, I was living there with Bobby, and of course, we didn't have that much to say about Baba because we were all so new to Baba. And so we would find out the story that led up to us finding out about Baba, coming to Baba, whatever, however you might want to say it. And Bobby had a really uh, memorable story, which was that she was taking some yoga class, and she had gone to the yoga class one night. And at the end of the yoga class, the yoga teacher would have something, uh, hopefully that would be useful and of spiritual meaning and significance. By the way, I hope you can hear this. Well, I guess if you can't, we'll put it on the recording. Um, so this yoga instructor told her that night, told her and the whole class, that if there's something that your heart is longing for, that you should pray to God and ask God to help you out with that, or to have that. And she remembered that when she got into bed that night and thought to herself, God, I don't know if this will work, but I would like to have somebody that loved me. And hey, Betty. Betty just came.
Yeah.
I'm sort of in the middle of a story, but I can back it up a little bit. I'm telling the story of how my first wife, Bobby, uh, learned about Baba.
Um,
Short story,
okay.
uh, but interesting and fun story. So I was saying that she had gone to these yoga classes, and this one yoga class, this instructor brought up the idea, if you have something that you really want and long for in your life, that you should ask God for it. Pray to God and ask for it. So when she got into bed, she was really maybe feeling lonely that night. Um, and she asked God, and apparently sincerely, uh, for someone that would love her. And she went to sleep. Then she had a dream. And in that dream, she found herself in what she described as a foreign land. She didn't know where she was, but it was a strange place. There were some strange things around. What I recall was there were these glass, like globes or cylinders or something, that were encasing gigantic snakes and cobras and things of that sort.
Oh,
Uh, and so it was somewhat terrifying, but it was sort of safe too because they were behind those glass uh, domes. But as she was trying to figure out what was going on, where she was, and what was happening, she realized that someone was holding her hand, and so she just turned to the person holding her hand, and it was an old man that she uh, didn't know who it was, but somehow made her feel very safe and, in fact, even loved. And so she woke up and she thought, well, that's not exactly, the look of the person that I was hoping that would be loving me. I was thinking of a nice boyfriend or something, but that was interesting. Anyhow, that day she went to a friend's house to pick them up to go somewhere. And the friend was not ready to go yet. So she came into their house and was drawn to their bookshelf. And on the bookshelf was this book that had a paper cover um, that was multicolored. So it kind of drew her attention, I suppose. And she pulled it out, and it was, oh my God, what's the name of that book? The Baba's book where he has little things like in Everything and the Nothing, those kind of little discourses. Not thinking of the name of it for some reason.
are those pictures on the cover?
The color is just different colored stripes.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
could be beams or
beams. That's it. Thank you, Betty. You're helping me out here, of course. So beams on the spiritual horizon or something like that. Um, so she takes it out and she opens it up, and she didn't have to flip very far to a page that had a photograph of Mayor Baba,
oh,
the man who was holding her hand in the dream, the same face. And then she had to find out who is Mayor Baba. And she
wow.
did.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, that he would protect her from snakes and strange things. That whole picture of the scary animals
Yeah.
in cylinders. Wow. Huh.
Well, that's the way our minds put forth the visions and the dreams that uh, would affect us in just the right way, because it's all based on what's in our minds. Those sanskaras. So for her, that was perfect.
Mhm.
So, did you bring a story, Betty, or do you have one in hand right now? If because you'll think of one later, I know if you don't have one now, but if not, I have another thing that I wanted to tell.
Um, I'll let you tell your other thing. Maybe I have to decide if I,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Take your time. We got time to start. So, first, I want to set this up by saying one of my favorite Baba songs is "Sing a Song of Meher Baba." I like to sing it. I like to lead people in singing it. It's fun. And the of course, just like Jamie's songs are really so perfect and genius. I can't get over them. They're just wonderful. And this particular song, I really like the second verse. Uh, I'm not sure that other people might think the same, but the second verse really gets me. The second verse is, He personally sees to each detail, correcting every error without fail. There is no lesson of the world he does not teach. There is no corner of your heart he will not reach. So he's got the world and the heart and he's got it all packed into four little lines there. And so why I was thinking of that is because Baba just is not just about teaching us about spiritual understanding and those kind of cosmological things or things of that sort. He can teach us anything if we need it, if we long for it. He's able to put us in touch with just the right way of learning things that may prove important, not only for ourselves, but even for other people that we can learn. Learning is quite a thing. I remember when I got out of college, that's when I really started learning. I started reading, actually learning and reading when I got out of school. But that's me, anyhow. So what I want to get to is when I when I was married to Bobby, very early on, I needed to make more money than I was making, if I was making any at the time. I mean, we didn't really need very much money, but uh, somebody approached me with the idea of going to an Amway meeting,
Oh,
and many of you might know what Amway is. It's a multi-level marketing uh, business that provides uh, cleaning products, personal care products, those kinds of things, if I recall. I mean, this is 53 years ago or something like that, that this was happening. So I went to that meeting. Now, I have gone through some changes over the last 55 years. And part of that is now that I think about it, it wasn't 55 years, it was like 52 years ago. Anyhow, uh, I went to this meeting and these people are professionals. They have a rap that is supposed to get you interested in joining up. That's the whole point, is to get you to join up and think, think about selling their products. And I was I was in sales early on in my life, and I thought, well, I bet I could do that. I bet I could sell that stuff, and then I could make a little extra money. I wasn't giving it enough thought, but I signed up anyway. Now, what happened was uh, I received the materials that I needed, and I started to try to think of who I could ask to go to one of these meetings and maybe get them to sign up, in which case, whatever they sold, I would make money on as well. That's the multi-level marketing uh, gimmick of it. So as I was thinking of that, I wasn't really coming up with anybody. It just wasn't appealing to me, but I wasn't sure what was going on. But what I was sure was going on was that I started to have a physical symptom that I really didn't like. It was an, it wasn't a painful kind of symptom. It was a bit uncomfortable, but it was particularly inconvenient in that my symptom was that after I would eat a meal, and at the time I ate 3 meals a day consistently, each time I would immediately have a loose bowel movement. So I would have a diarrhea thing happening right after I ate. And then that was it. I didn't have diarrhea any of the rest of the time until I finished that next meal. And then I would have it again. I was saying, what in the world is this? It wasn't anything to go to the hospital for or anything like that. It was just such a nuisance. It's such a weird phenomenon. Um, and I was really unhappy having it. But I believe Baba came to my rescue. Somebody did. And it was, and what I felt was Baba asked me actually. Uh, oh no, he told me. He said, Ron, you don't really like this Amway thing. It doesn't appeal to you. You don't like it, and you don't really want to do it. So I just wanted to get your attention and see that you don't really like it, and you should, probably not do it.
How did he come to you? You mean in your own, did
My
you,
uh, my conscience, voice of intuition.
your own intuition? You
Yeah.
you, you made that connection. That's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is a story, but it's really a setup
Mhm.
for a very recent story. So I'll tell you. So anyhow, I did call the person who I'd signed up with, and I told them that I was going to take back the materials to him, and I decided I wasn't going to join up and go into that business. And of course, that was the end of the whole diarrhea thing. That ended immediately. Immediately. It just required me to call the guy up and say, "That's it for me. I'm not doing it." Now, had been other times since then, at least one, but I'm not going to tell that story. What I want to tell you is very recently, just last week, we had a young guy come over to our house to try to sell us on the idea that his company could provide us with solar panels and a battery that would provide us with all the electricity we needed. And they would be taking care of the whole thing. All we had to do was pay them a certain amount each month, and we would save the money that we would normally be paying to the electric company. We would save a certain amount. So, I mean, it sounded pretty good, but I didn't really know that much about it. And he was like ready to sign us up then, except he did say, the company would have to see if we would qualify. I suppose they had to know if you were going to actually pay for them, if they were going to go to all the trouble of installing all this stuff. So, and you would have to sign an agreement. Uh, but as of late, uh, signing up for things I don't know very much about has not necessarily panned out very well. And I'm becoming very cautious. And so I called up this young guy and told him, wait, don't come over yet to go over the contract and all that kind of thing. Don't come over yet. I want to get a testimonial from somebody who's had the thing and ask them some questions. I was thinking of getting 2 or 3 testimonials. I wanted to try to be safe and not get into something that really was only just basically going to save us money. There weren't too many other things about it that were needed. It's like Bob had said, do whatever needs to be done, but do it as a spiritual being. Well, it didn't seem like I didn't really need it. So I started to feel uncertain about to doing it. And I wanted to see if I went into it, if it was appropriate. And Lisa was feeling the same way. So um, this one morning when he was going to, I was going to get in touch with him to talk to the guy who was going to give us the testimonial and have me ask him questions. I hadn't heard back from this guy yet, but I got a stomach ache, a very bad stomach ache. I'm sure there have been trillions of worse stomach aches, but this was very uncomfortable, and it just sort of like was there. I had actually prepared some things for breakfast, and I had cut it all up and everything, and then all of a sudden I got this stomach ache, and I didn't know what to do. So I tried to do something. I sat in the sun a little bit, but I was very uncomfortable from this stomach ache. Eventually, um, I was sitting at the computer to look up something about appendicitis. I think I was going to check something like that. I didn't know what to think, what to do. I was kind of confused because I was so uncomfortable. And then Lisa walked in, and then she says to me, she says, "Do you think this is physical or emotional?" And of course, Baba had taught me that uh, so many of these things are in fact suppressed emotions that announce themselves in this particular way. So I'm so glad that Lisa had the mind to suggest that. And when as soon as she said that, I said, "Oh, that seems really likely." So I thought that's probably what it is. But then I went and I laid down because I was still feeling rather uh, uncomfortable, and so uh, oh geez, maybe Lisa will get that. Lisa, can you get that? Thanks. Anyhow, um, um, I was laying there thinking about this thing, and then I said, "Okay, I'm just going to call this guy and tell him we're not interested. I think we don't really need this." So before I waste any more of his time,
Oh.
I'm going to just call him up. So I walked into this office where I'm sitting right now to call him, and the phone rings, or maybe the phone was ringing right when I decided to call him, and I walked in, and it was him, and he was going to tell me when this guy might be ready and all that. And I told him we don't at this time. This is not something that's important to us. We don't really want to go through all the trouble. We'll pass on it. Okay, so I hang up, and the stomach ache is completely gone. I mean, I felt fine. Nothing, no problem. I finished that breakfast up, a hearty breakfast. Whereas before, I don't think I would have trusted what would happen. So that is one way that Baba tends to work, at least with me, by teaching me something about the world. That the world is such that you have to kind of go with, like, oh, this is funny because the young guy, he said, well, because I said, I don't really have any intellectual reason why I shouldn't do this or anything like that. It's not that necessary, but I just don't feel like it. At this time, I don't really. And he said, well, it's probably a gut feeling. I said, brother, you got it right on. It was a gut feeling. And that gut uh, can speak. That's what usually speaks to me is the gut, but not always. Anyhow, that was an interesting episode, verifying and acknowledging what I believe is important when we are when we're having ailments and illness and things, is to look at the emotional part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I remember I had a work, it was work related. I was so constipated for a long time, what to do about a chiropractic. I don't know. It never, and Adele was the one who said, could it be your job? And yeah, it was. Yeah.
Wow.
But that when I made changed. Yeah. Um, well, I have something did come up for me. It's a little uh kind of deep, I guess, but why not? I've thought it's probably I'd say it's probably my most profound Baba experience. I was in India and as a as a prelude to it, um for I came into Baba through a Sufism, not Sufism, but Kathy Wiederholt, a Sufi. I thought all Baba lovers were Sufis initially, um, and and so I've always had kind of a. In fact, I took Canada's class. I thought I would be a Sufi, and going to India well, I guess I should go back even further. I came I came to Baba straight off of a commune, a hippie commune in Canada. I was leading a pretty wild life in my early days, which led me to desperation, really, to like I have got to straighten up my life. I, um, and so uh, so I made a dramatic change in life. I had a 4-year-old son, my dear son Banks. We took a Greyhound bus home to my folks. I came back and lived with my folks after, which was, would have seemed like like yeah, a real, I guess you'd say, a backslide. But I had no money. So that's what we did. I came back. I put work clothes on. I think I had a nickel to my name when we finally got home on the bus. And my dear folks just took us back in, um, and my son went to school, and he was real happy to be. We didn't know where to put him. He hadn't been to school. Um, anyway, so I felt, oh, by then I knew it. I did know about Baba. I had worked at that's in a publishing company. I guess this is going to be my Baba story. I don't think I've recorded it anywhere. Um, uh, I during my hippie time, I would stop in, work at this company, make enough money, and go uh, back to Canada. Canada was being a motel maid, but I did graphics at this publishing company. Um, so I I and at this publishing company, I met Baba lovers. Um, Heather Nadell was involved. It was near Stanford University. There were a lot of uh, Renee Busanich, quite a few Baba lovers were involved with this company. It was called Sullivan Associates. It was educational publishing. So it was there that I found out about Baba. Um, uh, but I didn't think it was for me. I wasn't ready to give up the the fun, the wildlife. So until my life just it was not going to work. It was yeah. I was pretty desperate to get straightened up, and I had this son that I needed to live a decent life for. Um, so I came back. And so I felt a real need to be very straight. And Kathy by then was a Sufi. I think this is my friend, my Baba contact. So I thought that was what you had to do. You had to and what I had to do. Um, I, so I didn't go off to India. I thought, those folks going off to India were, you know, living the hippie life that I was not supposed to live anymore. So, so I just figured that when I got myself straightened out enough, I would go and be a Sufi. Um, so and I looked at I would go to events that they would have. Let's see, this is let's see, uh, yeah. Oh, I'm mixing up my times here. Um, uh, I would hear like and the people I met, Lud, Dimple, but the people who had met Baba were wonderful. They were very inspiring. Um, um, so that was my so what I did not get was what people get when they go to India. Was that incredible heart quality that I learned later. So not that I didn't get it from the people I met. They were lovely, wonderful people. Um uh s- um so there, let me think. Okay. So uh uh oh, I know what happened. I was divorced. David and I were divorced. Our son was with me. And long about the time that I had gone to Sufi candidates class, and long about the time it was time to make a decision. I was already, boy, talk about, I was already nervous. I didn't really think I could make this kind of a commitment. And in fact, I made myself sick. I was, I, yeah. And Dave came back into my Dave, who had had by then another family, and which that their family, he came back into our life. So there was what to do about that. I remember we went to talk to Ludd, who was a preceptor, and he talked to people. That was some we could avail ourselves of. He talked to us both, and he said, "Well, sometimes you try to sweep something under the rug, and it just doesn't say swept."
Mhm.
And he suggested that we go to counseling, which we did. Wonderful Sufi counselor, Bob Royton. And so that's what we did. So kind of instead of, and at the time, it was my understanding you didn't marry someone who was, if you were a Sufi, you didn't marry someone who was out of the order, who was not a Sufi. I think it's different now, but so so that was what I did. Basically, that's the direction I went. I remarried my husband, and we picked it up, and that was my life path. For um and let's see. So, oh, but then as you well know, the trouble started. The schism started. Marisha had passed away. Uh, Jim Mackay came into. And I was still interested in, and I would say I'm definitely on that side of the fence. But I didn't. But I knew I was not comfortable committing you know to 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 be initiated or so. But this schism, this division, I was just in anguish over it. It seemed like we'd always been no matter, I knew there were differences, with Baba lovers, but I figured we were all a family. And that, it was like the great divorce for me. It just tore me up. I felt like I was in a family that was divorcing. I just, it, for years, um, I was in a lot of pain about it. Um, I didn't, I didn't know. So in 87, for the first time, by then I was going to with part of Huey and Jeannie's Baba group, and it seemed, I have to say, when it seemed like the time for me to go to India. Um, I I knew that Mara would be passing sometime soon. And it was at that time. In fact, I went deliberately at that time because it was the time when the Sufis were going there in buses. And I thought, well, I want to be right there. I want to see the action. I want to see what's going on. So so I went, Huey and Jeannie, bless them. I went by myself, which was wonderful. They was okay about my going, and Huey and Ginny gave me a whole primer here. When you get to the airport, you go this way, and they gave me step-by-step instructions for how to get there. So, um, and I did want to be there, when to see for myself what, the interaction there. And so, it was a short visit the first time. Couple weeks I was working. but it was all I needed. It was powerful. And of course, by the end of the time, I, it felt like family. Of course, the Pondali were wonderful, but um, yeah, it felt very comfortable, and yeah, I mean, I knew that was where I belonged. Um, but I still was very uncomfortable with that whole division, and so and Casey, Casey and was it Devana? Maybe it was Devana. Yeah, must have known that, and I'm not sure how. Casey came said that she had heard I was, oh, sort of deliberating about Sufism or troubled about it. I don't know how she knew that. Maybe Huey and Jeannie told her. Um, and uh, she 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 said, talking to me, she said, well, take Arthur's seat. There's Baba up at Arthur's seat, and there he's standing above this confluence. She said it was two rivers, maybe it's more. And one river is going winding, 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 winding to get there, and the other river is going, straight. And it's that it's a metaphor for life. You can take the windy path and you'll get there eventually, or you can take the straight path and just go straight to Baba, to God. And I remember telling her, well, Casey, how do you know which one? How do you know which one is the straight path? They're like, how do you know? How do you know? Basically, that Sufism isn't the current. I was still sort of that mind. How do you know that's? And I don't remember what her answer was, but um, so then somebody, one of them suggested I go into Baba's room, which was empty, nobody was there. And there were all these people there, but nobody was in Baba's room there at Marizad. So and the minute I walked in the door, um, that Bob was there. I kind of took a breath. Oh, I said, I meant to. And so I, of course, I go and I bow down at his bed, and this internal voice, very strong, said, "Turn around." I thought, turn around from Baba's bed, put my back to Baba's bed. Why would I do that? I said, turn around, turn around. So I turned around, and I was sitting, I can't remember if it was in a chair or on the floor. It must maybe on the floor. And so there I was. And then in walks Devana with a couple of people that she's giving a tour to. So she, uh, and I just sat there, and she says, in the first, how the room is, she said, this window, I was looking out the window. She said, this window, what Baba called his TV window. He used to sit and look out here, and okay. So I noted that. And then she turned to the picture of Baba at Arthur's seat. And she said, and this painting, it was a picture, it's a photo, black and white. She said, this photo is of Baba at Arthur's seat, she said. And there were two rivers way down below there, and they converge there. One of the rivers is wide and the other is straight. And, yeah, and they'll both get there. But one is the faster path. And then she turned to the sign, the Hafiz sayings, befitting a fortunate slave. But I can't repeat it all. But basically, it was saying, it was validating, listen to what you hear. So that was that event in my life was just um, uh, it made it, it didn't tell me that one way is right or one way is wrong. It made it not my problem. It said, take this off your shoulders. It's not your problem. You just do you know, you're okay. You're okay. Either way, and it took the whole, I mean, and this years of sort of wringing my hands over why is this the way it is? Yeah. So, um, that's how,
Patty,
yeah,
can, can I add something
yes, please.
that I recall from that story of the rivers?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, the main thrust of, uh, by the way, is the sound okay?
yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
fine. Yeah. So there was this one river that started there that meandered through in India. I mean, it went like 1,000 miles or something like that. And at certain places it was like huge. And people did all kinds of things in the river. It was like certain places it was holy, other places, people did their laundry or whatever. And it was part of the social life, and it served so many different things. But it did take a long time before it eventually got to the sea. Um, but it was grand. It was heralded as one of the great rivers of India and all this kind of thing. The other river, it basically just went right to Bombay, the Bay of Bombay. It went straight there
Uh-huh.
from the bottom of that mountain or cliff in Mahabaleshwar, and so because it did that, it went it went very fast too, because and it churned up all kinds of debris that people would throw in it because they didn't respect that river. It was not one that people made a big deal about like the other river. And so people would throw garbage in there just to get rid of it so they don't have to look at it. Anyhow, but what would happen is the turbulence would make the garbage come up to the top and it make it look really ugly and unappealing, so that you wouldn't necessarily be spending time, swimming in it or doing anything. You just it would just go straight to the sea. And so it was kind of different in that. It's more humble and but purposeful.
And faster.
Faster, straight and fast. That and Baba said that was the Avatar River. That was the Avataric path.
Mhm. Ah. Oh, really? Ah.
He did. That's the way I recall it. He said that was the Avataric path. The other path, maybe the path of yoga and other kinds of spiritual austerities or uh, so if you were going to take up something, live in an ashram where you're dressed a particular way or, reach certain degrees and levels and all this kind of stuff, uh, then that wouldn't be that quick way.
Mhm.
Direct.
It seems so. More and
Yeah.
more in my life, very direct, but inner guidance. Yeah, learning to listen. Learning to listen is sort of what I'm about these days. So, yeah. So yeah, I came away not well, and that was the first what's the word, crisis that I had experienced in the Baba world. Then came others, the whole Myrtle Beach crisis with Charles and Christopher, and that, then, but for that, it just sort of shook my world that Baba lovers would not agree like that, would split up and not agree. So so
That's the garbage rising to the surface.
yeah. Yeah.
Baba turns
Uh-huh.
Baba tide turns it all up and it comes to the surface. It has to get worked out.
It's funny. I just here at home, I was I think I was putting up a Baba picture, and I was it's a place it's going to be important to me because it's what I see when I get up in the morning, and uh, uh, and again I had this I needed to turn around. I needed to turn around to look at, and I remembered turn around. I had forgotten that part of my story. I had forgotten how it would, and thinking. I had better write this story down. I had better document this story. I'm going to lose it or, parts of it anyway. So that's part of why I figure it's okay. It's kind of intense, but yeah. Um, so yeah, that's, and I still feel very friendly to a lot of Sufis. I don't like that the division. It's not, it's not up to me, but I will say that you know, I I do. I feel that way. I
You brought up the incident at the center with Charles and all.
Right.
So the thing that struck me about that story uh, was when Charles mentioned that one a Baba lover from Myrtle Beach had gone to India during this period of time when he was struggling to try to figure out why would this be happening, just like you were thinking, and so many people probably were thinking, how would the Baba group uh, come up with this kind of uh, problem? It didn't seem to fit what a lot of people would have expectations of, right? So
Right. Right.
Erich said to this person from Myrtle Beach, he said, I want you to deliver a message to Charles and don't write it down, but remember it. Very simple, very short. Well, it may not be simple, but very short. He said, Mayor Baba's work is more important than Mayor Baba.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that?
I have heard it, but
Yeah.
I'm hear it again.
I mean, thinking, I mean, the way it struck me eventually, I don't know if it struck me immediately when he said that during a talk. Um, but it to me it means that we have our own vision, our own ideas about who Baba is and what he would be like. That's those expectations of how he would be in the world and how Baba lovers, how people would love him and how people would do this and do that, and they would never do this or do that. So we only have an idea of Mayor Baba, uh, and they're all different. Each one is unique to the individual person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baba tells us intellectually and poetically who he is, but that's still something that we gather and we perceive and we think about, and it changes, Uh, but Mayor Baba's work, it just keeps going on, and he puts us through his work is to make us grow closer to him and to wipe out things that stand in the way of our getting closer to him. That's that's much more important and great than our own ideas about who Mayor Baba is. That seems logical to me, that would be what Baba's not here to have you believe he's this or believe he's that. No, no, he just wants you to wake up and experience who he really is. That's an All the other stuff is not that important.
What a way to put it. Mayor Baba's work is more
is,
important.
is well greater. I think he said greater. Mayor Baba's work is greater than Mayor Baba.
Mhm.
But more important, it has the same meaning, I think. Yeah. So I had this one of my favorite Baba stories, and one of my favorite Baba storytellers is the person who I heard the story from, who's the subject of the story, and that is Rhoda Dubash.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if anybody has the chance to read Rhoda's book, probably I'm sure the story must be in there. I'm telling you the way I remember it. It may not be exact as you might read it. But this is the way I remember hearing it before her book came out. Um, and definitely one of my favorites because it depicts how Baba does what he's here to do. How he would well, I'll make the point after I tell this brief story about what she said. Um, and then you can comment on how it strikes you. You may have well heard this, uh, and what it is one day Baba gathered some women lovers, Baba lovers, and they were having the pleasure of Baba's company, basically quietly. Baba was not communicating with them very much, other than the love that he was beaming, and they were all satisfied with that. They didn't need any questions answered. They had no questions. They were just loving being in Baba's company. Apparently, that was something unique and very special. And so they had that going on. And then, as all things do come to an end, Baba said, "Okay, now uh, I want each one of you, one at a time, to come up to me and uh, kiss me, and then leave." And so the first person that got up to do that came up to Baba and kissed Baba, and then bowed down to Baba and left the room. Now, Rhoda Dubash had many years of being trained and taught and learning Baba's importance that he had for obedience, literal obedience. This was something that she failed at so many times, so she became very good at it. She learned it very powerfully from Baba. Baba just made sure that she would become an expert. So she saw this woman do this, and she realized that Baba said, "Kiss him and then leave." He did not say to bow down. And although Baba didn't object or say anything, she still thought to herself, Baba, is really, he doesn't want people to bow down sometimes. Sometimes it's okay, other times, no. But the fact that he didn't say to bow down, this woman got it wrong. But the next woman came up and she kissed Baba and also bowed down to Baba. And now she's thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on here with these people? No, doesn't anybody listen to what Baba has to say? Can't they get it right? And she's just really aggravated with the disobedience. In her mind, this was disobedience because Baba never said to bow down to him. Third person kissed, bowed down. Next person, same thing. And and of course, it was Rhoda's way to try to stay in the room as long as she possibly could because she wanted to be in Baba's company, maximize that time with Baba. So she wasn't ready to go up yet. But at this point, after 4 or 5, 6 people went up there and did exactly the same thing, that not what Baba asked them to do, she started thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Uh, Here I've been criticizing these people in my own mind for not obeying Baba. Am I going to, will I obey and not, and just kiss Baba and leave and not bow down to him? And then, of course, how would it look? How would it look if, well, everybody bows down to Baba and I don't bow down to Baba? Am I wrong? What should I do? And now she had a big question and a big problem on her hand here. What is she going to do? But now it's her turn. And now she has to go up there and decide. And what she did was she kissed Baba and then opted to do what everybody else did without Baba ever objecting. And she bowed down. And when she raised her head back up, her head smacked into Baba's knee. And that knee was on the same leg, which was attached to the same hip that had been crushed and really badly damaged in the 56 accident. And she looked up at Baba and saw him just in excruciating pain in his face. Well, she couldn't handle it. She leapt up and dashed out the door, left Guru Prasad, went out the gate into the street. She couldn't get away from herself. What had she done? Uh, and she had to try to think of why did this happen to her, right? And of course, was it about the obedience? What was it about? She was just bewildered, and Baba sent somebody to go get her. So they brought her back in, and Baba,
Mhm.
said, "This is just the way I have to do things." In order to teach people special lessons or to make somebody go through and understand the importance of getting closer to me and not one's ego that is concerned what other people think and those kinds of things. Those are the things that he has to strip away uh, so that he can just be his. And I'm just, I don't know exactly what Baba told her, but you know, he he comforted her for one thing. That you can be sure. Uh, but the way it strikes me is Baba comes here and he suffers for us, and in different ways for different people. He didn't. It would have been meaningless for those other people to have that experience, but because Rhoda was in that turmoil and ready to uh, take a step closer to Baba and away from her own ego, uh, Baba had to suffer that pain. Yeah.
And give her that painful experience, yeah, or yeah. Mm. Well, yeah. Yeah, I remember that story. Rhoda was very, the word precise comes to mind. She was very, I remember her, uh, being very kind of just focused, I guess would be on what the specific things that she was telling us, or yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So being that this program is about Baba's stories and
Mhm.
anecdotes, I highly recommend that people listen. If you can find a video of Rhoda, you probably could. There's probably something on the internet of Rhoda telling some stories, and also reading her book, which has a variety of her anecdotal experiences with Baba. They're pretty amazing stuff. Um, I mean, she was on a fast train, I think, because she was against Baba when
Yeah,
she met her husband Adi, um, and but then Baba just took her
right.
right in there and started just working on her.
Yeah.
The
Well,
other the other one that I put in the same kind of category as that one. Again, these are the way I remember them, and if somebody wants to see, there are other versions of these stories. Like there's several versions in publication, I think, of this story that I want to tell, but it's one of my top 10 uh, of the way Baba can work. And that is, it has to do with the woman who was a wealthy woman. I mean, they referred to her, I think, as a Rani, not me, but a Maharani or something like that. But she was very wealthy. She was talented. She had a wonderful family and friends that adored her, and she was smart. And uh, she had basically what I like to say is, if there was some way of calculating by measurement what would make somebody happy in the ways of the world, she'd be way the heck up there. She would be way up there, and everyone would think, oh, she must have the happiest life of almost anybody, because she had everything that one would think would make one happy in the world. And and then she was another a great blessing, or so-called happiness, was about to come her way, which was a grandchild by her elder daughter, from her elder daughter. And they both perished. They both died in childbirth. Now, at that point, uh, her situation was that all the things that people would think would make you happy would not be able to make her happy. She could not be happy. She was miserable, uh, and grieving about this loss. And it was she was, and all her friends and people that knew her would try to help her, because they loved her. She was a very lovable person, wonderful person, generous. She had all the qualities, but they found it so difficult. But Mayor Baba came to the place where she was. He was there, and he just happened to be there. I can't remember where that place was exactly, but it was someplace in India. And somebody knew about it and had heard that Mayor Baba was being said. It was said that he was God in human form. Maybe he could help this woman. And so she said, they told her about Baba and said, in fact, he's staying very close to where you live. You should see if you could get in touch with him. And so what she did was, this is this may be the way they connected, but I think somebody said Bob always walks by this particular place. And so she and her husband sat where this place was, so that when he walked by, they might be able to catch his attention and ask to see if there was anything that he could do to heal her grief. And so she, of course, destiny has it that she did. And Baba, I think Baba said, come to where I'm staying, tomorrow, or something like that. And and when she did, she told Baba asked her about what the story was with her, uh, and he said, well, so what is it that you would want? Uh, why do you think I can help you? And she said, well, people are saying that you're God in human form. Maybe you could somehow get me my daughter back. And of course, Erich was rather surprised. Maybe he was surprised at this point, maybe not, because Baba would come up with all kinds of wild things to say, and he said, "Yeah, I can bring your daughter back." And whenever he would say that, something like that, Erich would go, "Oh my God, now we're in trouble." So, you know, uh, but that's what he told her, and she kind of perked up and said, "Oh my gosh." Uh, but Baba said, "Now, the thing about that happening is you need to do a few things uh, that I'm, carry out some instructions that I have. Now, I remember one of the instructions was that she was to come to where he was staying there every day and do some cleaning. Now, this wasn't her thing. She probably had maids and servants and all this kind of thing. But he asked her to do that. And so she came every day and did that and was happy to do it for the person who, was going to maybe bring her daughter back, uh, which would have made her feel happy. At least that was her idea. And but and she was also not to ask when Baba would do it, when Baba would bring her daughter back. And there might have been one other thing that Baba, one other instruction, I can't remember. Um, but this went on for a while, and she kept in touch with Baba. She was falling in love with Baba actually, and because Baba could do that. We know we hear all kinds of stories on that. We have our own, but that's what was happening for her. And being that she was well to do, she could go visit Baba. Baba allowed her to come and visit him at various times. She went to all the uh, darshan programs and things like that. And this went on for years. And she was a Baba lover. And so one day he was sitting with some of the women. I don't think it was the same meeting as Rhoda's was, but they were doing some chatting about things, um, and he engaged this woman. I wish I could remember her name, but um, maybe somebody can put it in the comment section on YouTube if you're listening and you happen to remember her name. I'm sure a lot of people know who this is and have heard the story before. Um, anyhow, he looked at her and he said, this would be a time when might be possible to actually bring your daughter back. If you would like that to happen, uh, just tell me that that's what you would want to happen, and then we can see what would happen. And she she knew that this was not the most important thing in life. She already had come to the most important thing, which was her love for Baba and Baba's love for her. And it probably would never have happened if the other hadn't happened. So it wasn't appropriate. She said, "No, Baba, your will is what I want to happen always. And so if it's your will." Now, that's that part of the story. But there's one other thing that I heard about this story. Whether it was Eruch or Bao, those are the two people that I heard the story from. Uh, but one of them said that her son-in-law, who had been married to that daughter, kept in touch with her and remained like a son to her, and he remarried. And the woman he married looked like and acted like her daughter
Wow.
and loved her like a daughter. So in a sense, the next best thing was given to her.
Mm. I don't, I think I heard somebody say that Kusum Singh might have been involved with that story. So do you know?
That's who it is. Yeah, Kusum Singh.
Yeah, that
Well, maybe Kusum Singh is either that woman's name.
might be the daughter-in-law, the new.
No, no,
No.
I think no, I don't think no. She had a younger daughter who came. I remember seeing her in the Bay Area. She came to the Bay Area with her husband and talked about Baba and her life with Baba and her mother and stuff. Uh, but maybe her name was Kusum Singh. I don't remember, but I
Was a
think
Kusum Singh was a Rani. Yeah, that I remember. So it could be her, right?
yeah,
Mom.
Kusum Singh is either the mother
Oh.
or her younger daughter. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think yeah. Thank you for you're the name person. I appreciate it because I can't remember these names very well. Uh,
Singer. She's known to be a singer. Yeah, she sang with Debbie Ash, Plum, in LA. Yeah.
yeah, what I remember the mother was an expert skeet shooter. I was one of her great talents that she was into.
Um, program go an hour and a half?
Is it an hour and a half? Well,
Or
I don't know. Yeah, I think we'll wind it up here pretty soon. I thought of this other incident that occurred that happened to me. Um, so this was my own personal anecdote, and it actually begins right before I really came to Baba. I had heard of Baba at this point, but it took me a while to. I hadn't actually. I heard one person told me about Baba during the first year after I heard Baba introduced himself to me. It wasn't a person that told me about Baba. It was Baba himself. But I'll tell that story another time, and maybe people have already heard me tell it. But so this was at a time uh, right after Edward Luck told me something about Baba. I don't remember what exactly, but it was at the Atlanta Rock Festival, and at that Atlanta Rock Festival, somebody was on the stage and they said, "Let's do the Breath of Fire." This is when people were experimenting with all kinds of different yogic practices and diets and, well, just everything. I mean, you were there, Betty, uh, it was experiment time, right? And checking out this and hearing about this idea and how to dress in this particular way or all types of things. So anyhow, I I really got into this breath of fire thing because I had been attending some uh, little classes at the park by a yogi from India who had come to the park right around the same time that I started to go to this park in Coconut Grove, Florida. Um, and so when this person told about the breath of fire, I started to see what I could do with it. But one of the things that happened is I was sitting with a high school friend. Um, he was 2 or 3 years younger than I was, but we were buddies. He was he was a little wackier than me. I was much more straight laced than him. Maybe not at this point, but when I in high school. Um, Anyhow, he's sitting on one of the twin beds in his room, and I was sitting on the other one, cross-legged. We were both sitting cross-legged. And he said, "So what is this breath of fire thing that you were talking about? What is that? How do you do it?" And so I explained, you take a bunch of deep breaths and then just hold it. That's the way I do it. And, I was no professional. But what happened was he decided to try it according to what I had said. I couldn't have said very much, but he took a bunch of breaths and then he held it. And for him, he wasn't goofing around. He was serious. He was doing this in a very serious, sincere way. And I thought, wow, look at how he is doing this. I mean, I was so impressed. So I was just gazing at him. And so I hadn't done the breath thing, but I was looking at him do this. So in my gazing at him, what occurred was the I was looking at the world. He was in the world, and he was in sitting on that bed, but the world began to change into pixels.
Hmm.
It became pixelated. I think that's a word.
Mhm, mhm.
And 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 so these pixels were like coming apart, and there was something behind that gross
Uh-huh.
perspective that I had. There was something behind it. And what was behind it was this energy that was so powerful that I thought, oh my God, I can't go in there. If I go in there, I'll be toast, literally. Uh, and so I withdrew I tried to withdraw myself because I was moving into this thing right through the pixels that were kind of moving away and not being that
Wow.
gross world anymore. And I thought, oh my God. And so I withdrew myself from that, and it made an impression, put it that way. So I didn't know really what to make of that. But shortly, I was to come in touch with a Baba person who actually heard about Baba at the same Atlanta Rock Festival, probably from Eddie Luck, like I did. But I met him at this park, and we were chatting, and and he saw that I was very interested to find out about everything. I wanted to know what made the world work and all that. I wanted to know everything about how things went, reincarnation and all what are all these different forms and what's consciousness and all this kind of and what's God. I wanted to know it all. And people would be telling me things, and I would be having my own revelations about it and reading things that about it, profound things. But uh, I really didn't know about what I had experienced that day, and I was ready for the next step. And this guy said, you should go to this class that this guy is putting on. And they're reading Mayor Baba's book, God Speaks. And so I thought, well, I'm definitely going to take this guy up on his recommendation here. And I made a point to go to this classroom that was at the University of Miami, not too far from where I lived. Uh, Actually, hitchhiked over there and went to the classroom, and Hermes Ryder was
Uh-huh.
presiding over that
Uh-huh.
and facilitating the meetings. And on the very first meeting, I went and sat down in the front of the classroom, in front of the teacher's desk at the front of the class, in front of the class, and facing toward the class was the uh, reincarnation, evolution, involution chart.
Oh, gosh.
That chart, which somebody recently said was not really included in the God Speaks book at the time, which would have been 1971.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
You got
but
them,
he had a copy of it.
got them in in an envelope that was in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh, I bought the book. I'm pretty sure it was in there. But anyhow, it was in a frame
Mhm.
on that desk, and I was looking at it,
Oh,
and I was looking at it, and I thought to myself, I just it was so simple.
mhm.
And I said, this contains all the features and aspects of things that I have been hearing about and reading and really trying to figure out and all that. It was all right here on this chart. This lays it out in a very simple, childlike manner. And the thing that really struck me that I had was the missing component was what framed the whole image, which was God's imagination. That it was all God's imagination from start to finish.
I don't remember that. Was it like a title or something?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Oh. Mhm.
Yeah, it's God's creative imagination, for, formless. It's on the internet. You can
Yeah.
see it. Yeah, um, but that was that. I thought I've got to read this book now. This book is going to have the answers for me. And so I started reading the book, and this is where uh, when it got to the first plane, talking about the first plane, it said that people who are approaching the first plane with their own gross senses can actually experience the the first plane. Baba says that it's sort of like the way in, you'll still retain your sight, which is a gross sight, but you'll see something that you hadn't seen before. And when I read that, and I also read that you would experience energy that would be like 1,000 atomic bombs or 1,000 suns or something like that. It would be so powerful, which is exactly what I felt I was experiencing when the world became, was starting to disappear, and I was starting to experience uh, whatever it was manifesting from, right? And so I thought that's what that experience was, and it kind of tied tied it together for me, and
Yeah.
and I felt like Baba gave me uh, that was his way of letting me know that he was setting me up for finding out about these things. And just as an addendum, as after I read that book, I knew two things: that Mayor Baba knew everything, and that I didn't care to know much more about any of that. I had my fill. I knew I was full, so didn't have to, you know, learn anything more. That was quite fulfilling for me. So I think uh, I think I should thank people for coming to hear the recording of this. Uh, I'm glad you were found some interest in at least opening it up and starting in on it, and maybe it kept your attention. But again, if you have any comments, I guess the best way to do it is to just put them in the comment section. Oh, I guess you have to be a YouTube member to do that, but nevertheless, I'm sure some people are. Uh, but and if you want to try to get in touch with me, you can, you might be able to find a way to get in touch with me. I'm happy to talk to people on the phone, or you want to send me an email or something like that.
Your
Uh,
email- how do they know your email address?
they don't, but they can find out. Uh, I'm happy to give it to you, but I'm not going to give it to you on this recording. I don't want it to just go out like that. Um, but yeah, I'm sure if you really want to,
Mhm.
somebody will know some Baba lover that that I know knows my, you could track it down. I'm around. Um, and anyhow, uh, we'll see. I would like more people to come and tell Baba stories. Uh, if you are able, if you're available, and if you have a story, which I'm sure you do, and even if you don't, look in all those books that Bao Natu came up with and published. They are loaded with brilliant stories. Books about Eruch have brilliant stories. Read one and learn it, and then come on and enjoy telling it, and um, relish it. They're they're uh, they're a wonderful way of remembering Baba. So that's what we're here to do. Let's see if anybody takes me up on that. Okay, Betty, what do you think? Think we've
Yeah,
completed our task?
yeah,
You,
yeah.
you want to say anything? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Avatar Mayor Baba Ki
Yeah.
Jai.
Avatar Mayor Baba Kite. Yeah.
Let's see. Recording. Let's see.
Actually,
Stop recording. Do I have
if
to do anything to
you
stop
don't
the recording?
end it, it automatically stops it.
Oh, I thought so. Okay, great.
Okay.